Picture Jesus there in Galilee, the crowd pressing in on him, coming down that hillside so much he has to step into Peter's boat and push out from the side, and he sits down in that boat in a natural amphitheater, and they stand there listening to him teach. Man, he's got more than mere content. Jesus is engaging people in such a way, they just have to listen to him.
Isn't there a danger of somebody who's listening to their favorite preachers then trying to imitate that person and being David putting on Saul's armor?
Yeah, I think if you listen to one person over and over and over, you're going to try and sound like that one person. And if you listen to 200 people, you have no clue what's good and what's not. If you have about 4 or 5 people that you respect to do it well, and you listen to them, they're going to give you enough exposure that you see, okay, there are certain things they all have in common, and then there are certain idiosyncrasies that they have that make them good or endear you to them, or maybe some of them, there's something that you don't like about that guy, but then that tells you, okay, don't do that. So I think you need sort of a small, regular diet of good preachers you listen to and analyze what makes their preaching really grab me by the lapels and say, hey, you, look, do.
And somebody who would include in that list John Piper and Tim Keller. They're going to hear two very different communicators.
Yeah.
Somebody who is not a passionate preacher, who'd be more cerebral like Tim Keller, should he try to exercise his passion muscle, or should he just stay in his lane?
I'm not going to in any way tell Tim Keller what he should do. He's done fine without my advice. I would say the same thing. I was a huge admirer of John Stott. John Stott, he could get, first of all, he was so good and sort of droll that he could get away with it. I could never deliver it with no more intensity than John Stott, and anybody listen to me. He had the accent, he had the intellect, he had the command of language. I mean, imagine Martin Luther King reading his I Have a Dream speech in some dull, monotonous way. The minute I invoke that speech, you hear him.
Right.
You hear him in your head. You can't not hear that. And the lilting voice, the powerful imagery of it, the personal intimacy of it. And that's what a preacher needs to do. Can you imagine any of the prophets being dull? I mean, Jeremiah's the weeping prophet. Isaiah walks naked for 6 months and, preaches. Ezekiel, he does all his little illustrations of building the city and laying siege to it. But they're not dull, they're not boring. Jesus, I think, you see a lot of the Jesus movies, like Greatest Story Ever Told. They always make the Sermon on the Mount look like the most boring thing. Jesus is standing out there. People are socially distanced from one another as he's going, blessed all the peacemakers. I'm like, there's no way Galilean fishermen and housewives and farmers are standing out under that sun to listen to Jesus talk like that. And Jesus is using hyperbole. You got a log in your eye. Take out that log out of your eye before you get the speck out of your brother's eye. Something about him was so engaging. People wanted to come to him. They wanted to listen to him. The crowds, picture Jesus there in Galilee, the crowd pressing in on him, coming down that hillside so much he has to step into Peter's boat and push out from the side, and he sits down in that boat in a natural amphitheater, and they stand there listening to him teach. Man, he's got more than mere content. Jesus is engaging people in such a way, they just have to listen to him. This is one, he teaches as one with authority. And that way of communication is so powerful. And we can undermine it if we're tentative when we're proclaiming the truths of the Word of God.
I have found as a student of communication that if I'm watching or listening to somebody and going, okay, that worked, rather than saying, how can I imitate that? If I say, why did that work? Right. What was going on there? And then take whatever the principle is and apply that.
Well, that's right. I could never be Alistair Begg. It's just impossible. He is so unique in his personality, his facial expressions, his accent, the whole thing. I would look like an idiot trying to imitate Alistair Begg. But I can look at Alistair Begg and say, okay, what makes him good? Well, there's an authenticity that is just so engaging. He's likable in the pulpit, even when he's saying hard things. You know, he lets the offense be the offense of the gospel, not the offense of the person delivering it. And so, again, you're right. So what's the principle underneath what he's doing? And that's what you're going for. I'm not trying to imitate his behaviors. Another one of my favorite preachers is Robert Smith. He teaches at Beeson. Robert Smith is just one of the most remarkable preachers I've ever heard. He never looks at a note, and his sermons are masterpieces. I can't be Robert Smith. I tell my students, listen to Robert Smith. Don't ever try and be Robert Smith. You can't be Robert Smith. But man, when I hear him preach, I want to preach. It makes me, okay, I need to get up and preach somewhere because he so stirred my soul. And I can't do exactly what he does, but I have the same goal. I want to adorn the gospel with a delivery that it deserves.